is from CNBC.com. Headline is this: Bezos, Gates back fake meat and dairy made from fungus as next big alt protein. And there it is. There's your actual sustainable future. When you look to these technocratic nice guys, let's say, this is what we get. We've talked about here's your handful of crickets in your tiny home. Welcome to your sustainable future, right? While Obama is living the high life in his Martha's Vineyard mansion right on the water, no less, of all places, right? You figure if the sea level rise is going to be a thing in the next several decades, that maybe Obama wouldn't have bought a house on the water. Weird, right? Do you think that's weird? I think that's super weird. But I digress. Here we go. Let's go back to the article here. Speaking of your sustainable future, as consumers become increasingly comfortable eating faux meat burgers that look, cook, and taste like the real thing, a food tech startup backed by Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates is using fungus as the primary ingredient to create alt meat foods. Nature's Find, FYND, based in Chicago, has raised $158 million in funding from investors including Bezos, Gates, and Al Gore. The company's meatless breakfast patties and hamburgers, dairy-free cream cheese and yogurt, and chickenless nuggets are scheduled to hit grocers' shelves later this year. The alternative food sector skyrocketed in 2020, growing U.S. retail sales 27% and bringing the total market value to $7 billion, according to the Plant-Based Foods Association, the PBFA, a trade group comprising more than 200 member companies. Meanwhile, shipments of alt protein products from food service distributors to commercial restaurants rose 60% year over year in April, according to research firm NPD Group. All right, now you tell me, alt proteins. Does that sound? How does that sound? An alt protein. It's bad enough that they process the shit out of the meat we're already eating, but now think about it. If they're going to replace it with this fungus or the handful of crickets or mealworms or the shit that we're always talking about them forcing us to eat, how much processing do you think goes into that? Right? I mean, if we're talking about processed food being the main culprit of cancer and things like this, what about this? Now they want us to switch over from regular meat, right? Butchering animals, right? Which again is horrific. I know they do some really terrible things when they're doing these. It's not humane at all, and all, et cetera, so on, right? I mean, you're butchering animals for crying out loud. But then we have this other business where they're like, well, by the way, we're going to have this alt protein, and we're going to put all these chemicals and shit in it. Now, here's the craziest part, right? They could probably get away with doing something like this and making it so it's not. What would you say? So it's not as bad for you, right? But what they do, of course, think about it, is they're trying to make things that aren't meat taste and have the texture of meat, right? The color, the texture, things like this. And so what they do is they put in a bunch of like ridiculous chemicals and shit, right? To make these things happen. Food dye, all kinds of other crap that shouldn't even be in there in the first place. If you're going to eat some damn fungus, eat some damn mushrooms, right? And you're good to go. Eat some blue cheese, right? But you see what I'm saying? That's not processed. This is going to be like triplicate process because they're going to try and make it actually taste like chicken nuggets or whatever the hell it's supposed to taste like, right? So you see, it's basically going from one terrible thing to another terrible thing, except probably the second terrible thing, which is this, is going to be so processed that you're going to be eating stuff that's not good for you. Nothing burgers. What's up, Helena? Nothing burgers. There you go. 40s. We'll file this under how could this go wrong? And so not only that, I've seen, I don't know how true this is, so don't quote me on this entirely, but I've seen that these Beyond Burgers and the Impossible Burgers and shit like this that's already out there has high levels of estrogen in them. And I don't know if that's true. I'll have to look into that to verify it. But, it could be just a smear on the industry. But things like this, right? Like you don't know exactly what they're putting in this, I don't know. Like I said, I love animals. I'm not for just butchering more animals. I don't think that's the way here. I think there are answers to these problems we have, and they are problems. We have billions of people on this earth, and trying to feed them all is a challenge. And then two, trying to feed them all with something like this becomes, I don't know.